You know, I think Donald Trump got it right, except he got the wrong target here. He starts talking about rigged elections, and he needs to look at his own party as far as the parties that are actually trying to rig elections, particularly in Pennsylvania. They got a lot of documentation on them. I'm going to play this clip from Al Sharpton's show that basically is going to substantiate my claim that it's the Republicans, not the Democrats, that are trying to rig the elections.
Go down to certain areas and watch and study and make sure other people don't come in and vote 5 times. We have to call up law enforcement, and we have to have the sheriffs and the police chiefs and everybody watching. Go around and look and watch other polling places and make sure that it's 100% fine.
Donald Trump proposing election monitors to patrol polling stations this November. It comes as the fight over voting rights takes center stage. For example, a court struck down the North Carolina's voter ID law, but now state Republicans are waging a war to roll back early voting.
Prove this year's November elections in North Carolina could be a fight to the finish. WREL obtained a copy of a recent email. State Republican Party Executive Director Dallas Woodhouse pushing county boards of elections across the state to close polling places on Sundays and eliminate polling sites on college campuses.
Meantime, the Clinton camp is trying to boost turnout this November with a new voter registration drive in Latino communities. Joining me now is Ari Berman, contributing writer for The Nation, who's written extensively about voting rights. His book, Give Us the Ballot, The Modern Struggle for Voting Rights in America, is out in paperback. Thanks for being here, Ari.
Good to see you.
First of all, what do you make of Trump's call for poll watchers?
Well, I think it's very disturbing. First off, he's saying people are going to vote 10 or 15 times, which we know is not true.
Right.
Then he's saying in Pennsylvania, people are going to cheat in certain parts of the state. We know what he's talking about. He's talking about places like Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. And then it's disturbing because he's talking about law enforcement monitoring the polls.
Which is against the law in Pennsylvania.
It's illegal in Pennsylvania and in other states as well. And the Republican Party is explicitly blocked from doing this kind of thing. You may remember there was a special election in New Jersey back in the 1980s,
right.
And the Republican Party put off-duty sheriffs carrying weapons outside polling places in black and Latino neighborhoods. The DNC sued them, and so the RNC cannot do these kind of quote-unquote ballot security operations that Trump is calling for.
Absolutely, and police, just so our viewers understand, police are barred from being in the polling sites in Pennsylvania, police, sheriffs, by law, unless they're voting. But what do you make of his new claim that the Democrats can't win unless the election is rigged? Watch this.
The only way we can lose, in my opinion, I really mean this, Pennsylvania, is if cheating goes on. She can't beat what's happening here. The only way they can beat it, in my opinion, and I mean this 100%, if in certain sections of the state they cheat, okay?
Now, you've written extensively about his claim that the only way the Democrats can win is by cheating. But how do you even make sense of this claim?
Well, it's funny he's saying that when he's down by an average of 9 points in Pennsylvania. I mean, if anyone needs people to vote 10 or 15 times, it's probably Donald Trump. But this kind of fraud, voter impersonation fraud, is exceedingly rare. Since 2000, there have been 1 billion votes cast, but only 31 cases of voter impersonation because it's an incredibly inefficient and stupid way to try to steal an election. If you vote multiple times in person, you're going to get caught. So it's incredibly rare. It's not happening, and he's trying to use this as a scare tactic to then build support for new efforts to intimidate and suppress the vote.
Now, I mentioned North Carolina and the new push to roll back early voting. The New York Times reports that, quote, nearly 32% of voters cast their ballots before Election Day in 2012. How much is at stake in the fight for early voting? How important is it, Harry?
It's very important. It was a key part of Barack Obama's success in 2008 and 2012, the way they used early voting. It's critically important in states like North Carolina. 71% of African Americans in North Carolina voted early compared to 48% of white voters. So African Americans in particular have come to rely on early voting, so there's not long lines on election day that they have to wait on. And that's why the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeal said that cutting early voting, particularly on the Sunday before the election, when black churches, as you know, do souls to the polls,
right.
that was evidence of a smoking gun. And now, after that court decision, the North Carolina Republican Party is trying to do the very things the court said not to do. They're trying to further cut early voting.
And we know 13 states, despite the decision in Pennsylvania, Texas, and Wisconsin, 13 states still have new voting laws, which, because of the Supreme Court decision on Voting Rights Act, has become even easier for some states to change their voting laws.
Yeah, this is the first election since the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, and it's the first election in 50 years without the full protections of the Voting Rights Act. So there's still a bunch of states where there are problems. The courts remedied some of the worst laws, but we have to be very vigilant about what restrictions are still out there.
13 states, they're still right as they put them. Harry Berman, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So it's not the Democrats that are trying to rig the election, it's the Republicans. And we need to get out there and vote. Vote early and try to get everybody that you know to vote. You know, regardless of which candidate you pick. I'm feeling Jill Stein. You need to get out there and exercise your constitutional right to vote.